these are gonna be some of the best places that you can hit in 1 to 2, maybe 3 days in Louisville, Kentucky. It'll have a breakfast place, a brunch place, and some dinner places. We went there in the recommendations of our friends, and I honestly don't regret any of these besides maybe one of them, but you'll find that out. This will be a really quick kind of review of about 4 restaurants. I'll tell you about the atmosphere, the service, the food, pricing, taste of that, and overall pros and cons. I'll kind of do this in chronological order of how we went to them. I will be very upfront with you on this first one. It's called North of Bourbon. I'll put all the information to me on the side somewhere here. It's just like a darker urban ambiance, and it serves mainly tapas and bourbon with cocktails, wine, beer, but I'll list some menu on here. The restaurant itself, once you go inside, there is a very, very long bar. It's got kind of like an ambient lighting experience where you kind of have that speakeasy kind of feel there. Plus there are basically, I guess, tables inside of these big, huge like bourbon barrel casks that are just super cool. Very good to take pictures of. Instagrammable is probably what most people would say in the other communities. I think the best thing about this whole place is just the atmosphere. I wasn't the biggest fan of the food, just to be upfront with you. The service was great. Our waiter was very attentive. He explained the menu very, very well. If we had any questions, he was on the ball with it. He gave us recommendations, things like that. I'll put the kind of the main dinner menu. I think it kind of changes as it goes, but they do give you these like little things of peanuts complimentary. I'm not a big peanut fan, but if you like peanuts, they got peanuts. For drinks, I got my basic beer because I'm not a big cocktail fan unless you got an espresso martini, and I don't think anyone can make an espresso martini unless you're on a cruise, but that's a whole different story. They got plenty of bourbon on here. They got plenty of different cocktails that I'll kind of list to the sides here. That way you can take a peek at it. I think a lot of people go here to drink and then sort of enjoy higher quality or higher priced food is probably the best thing for me to say. We did start off our dinner because all the plates are really tiny. They're called tapas, and I usually call tapas tiny ass plates, and I'm not the biggest fan of tapas. It was more so the atmosphere here, so we started off with chicken wings. They were pretty good. I'd probably end up giving them like a 7 out of 10. We did try, the next thing was a catfish nugget, which I love catfish more than anything. It's kind of this fried fish, and it's just, catfish is great when you fry it. I'd probably give that one a 7.5 out of 10. And then I ended up eating some pasta. It's called crab Guacamole. It's some local pasta with a little bit of crab meat. It had a very good white sauce. It's not a red sauce. But all of these things, in saying this, is like tinier, and they're very, very expensive. I mean, catfish nuggets was $20. The pasta that I had was like $34 for a tiny plate. And then I'll be like, man, I could go to Olive Garden and feed 3 people like that. I know that's gonna trigger somebody here, but it's true. Overall, the pros and cons of this. The pros, I would say that it has one of the best ambiances, speakeasy kind of vibe. They have plenty of bourbon selection. It's called North of Bourbon, so you would expect that. Other pro is service was really good. Our waiter was very attentive, explained everything very well. Told us that, you know, there's tapas here and you came to the wrong restaurant, because I like big plates. Cons are it's extremely pricey for what it's worth. I think they bank on the atmosphere to kind of oversell their food, just to be honest. On a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. I know, not the best way to start this. So if you stuck with me through the first one we went to, which has the cool atmosphere, the rest of these actually are, I feel like, worth it to go to and see and eat at. Next one in chronological order that we went to is the GraleHaus. It's kind of like literally a house on the street, and you wouldn't expect it to be a restaurant or a cafe, as they say. It's open from 9 to 2 daily. It's mainly coffee, but they have brunch, breakfast, burgers, they have cocktails, beer and wine. But this one also has a very cool atmosphere. It's also a bed and breakfast, and I guess you can stay there because there's an upstairs to it that you can go into to your bed, but then I think it'd be probably too loud, but we won't get into that. Either way, it's literally in a house. You can have reservations there. The wait was a little bit longer. I think it was like 30 minutes or closer to, you know, an hour. So we just walked around everywhere. Once they texted us our table was ready, you know, there's a bunch of people sitting outside. There's like a birdhouse outside. There's plenty of people on the steps. And you're thinking, well, why are people going to this house? But it's actually a bed and breakfast, restaurant, cafe, bar. Once you get inside, it's kind of jam-packed in there. Everyone's kind of all clustered together there. Plus there's people on the outside. It's very crowded. But I think the reason was because it was worth it. I mean, it's just a very nice little house with a bed and breakfast, and the food was pretty good. I got the biscuits and gravy, and this was a very good biscuits and gravy. They actually added maple syrup on the side, which I'm not a big fan of sweet and savory, so I gave that to my friend. The biscuits and gravy was like $15. It was a pretty big plate covered in gravy. The biscuit was very, very good. Of course, you know, I had another biscuit review, which we won't talk about in this one, but this one was worth it for sure. Give it probably an 8 out of 10. My wife got a breakfast sandwich, and it came with the biscuit and had pimento cheese on it. It's got scrambled egg and some type of sausage on there. It was pretty good, $13. She'd probably give that one a 7.5 out of 10. This was a very good brunch place. We've been to a lot of brunch places in Louisville, but this one I feel like with the atmosphere, it was really, really nice along with the food. Would highly recommend that one. The service here was pretty good, on par with pretty much every other, you know, food industry. It wasn't terrible whatsoever. It was pretty good. I did also get a cold brew coffee just because it was early in the morning time. I mean, I'd just rate that as average more than anything. Pros and cons. So the pros is the atmosphere, once again, is just a really cool vibe. It's very rare that you kind of eat in somebody's house unless you're in a bed and breakfast. The food was actually a lot better than most brunch places that I had. The prices were, you know, kind of on the higher end. I mean, it just depends if you're comparing McDonald's to a nicer restaurant. Of course, you know, I think the cheapest thing on the menu for food, it was like $10. That's for one thing. The only cons I have is usually this place is going to have a pretty long wait. You're going to be waiting outside or just hanging out on the streets. Probably going to be a bit, it is crammed in there. So it's, if you don't like tight spaces and things like that, I'd probably avoid that place. But honestly, I'd give this one at least a 8.5 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10 for like brunch spots in Louisville. This is probably the favorite place that I went to in our adventure. It's called Guacamole. It's a Mexican restaurant. We did go there for dinner. We had reservations, and we actually sat on the rooftop part of the restaurant, which was really, really cool because you could see an overlook of the street. You got to go through the restaurant, which has extremely cool vibes. Everything's lit up at nighttime. You can literally get lost in this place. I got lost quite a few times. There is like a greenery scene with some neon lights that everyone's like, man, I gotta take a picture of this because it's gonna be so cool looking. And it's got like just neon signs, like this Frida Kahlo vibe, you know, the unibrow lady. It's got those type of vibes, and it was just cool in that sense. Once we got up to the rooftop bar, there's a bar up there, and basically waiters there helping you out. We were in these little pods. We were on a bench. It's not as crowded. It was a really warm day this day, and it just made the ambience really good. It was like that sunset type of dinner. And as the night progressed, there was more like neon signs that were lighting up the bar. You could see the guacamole sign light up. It was very good to just take pictures if you're really good with like night photography, street photography, things like that. Ambiance there was way cool. That's one of the best selling points of this place. To match that, the food was really good. Of course, you can't go to a guacamole restaurant named Guacamole without getting guacamole. I just said guacamole like 4 times right there. But we did get the guacamole sampler. They did give us different types of chips, plantains, which I'm not a big fan of. Guacamole sampler. Highly, highly would recommend for sure. 9 out of 10, even if you don't like guacamole. I did get carnitas here, which came in this big monstrous kind of piece of meat that you would just get yourself and put it in a little taco, put a little sauce on it. It was great. Love it. My friend got some fajitas. It came out like in a big steak in a skewer. You had to kind of cut it and put it in your little taco. I kind of like that, how they give you the meat and you kind of put as much as you want to in the taco, or however less you want to in the taco. But then I feel like I'm working too, so I don't know how I feel about it. My wife got the birria tacos, which comes with consomme, which is actually really good. She ends up actually just drinking it like soup. I know that's probably not, you know, the most ideal way to consume that, but it looks like consume, maybe, or I'm going crazy, one of the two. Either way, all of our food in a combined, like with steak, with carnitas, with the birria, things like that, I'd give that a solid 9.5 out of 10. For sure, this is probably some of the best Mexican food I've had in quite some time. Guacamole was great. I ain't gonna complain about that. Service was really good. Our waiter was very attentive, got everything out pretty quick. Now, the only bad thing about this scenario was there was no draft beer. What Mexican restaurant has no draft beer? Tell me. Now, the prices, this is gonna be on the price you're in. I'm just gonna be honest with you too. It's not gonna be on the cheaper end. It's probably gonna be at least $20 per entree or more, just depending on what you get, but well worth it, even if you just go there one time. But I think it'll be a repeat, especially if you go to that rooftop. Go to the rooftop, people. It's cool. The pros of this place is it's in a very good location. You can see a lot of kind of the street atmosphere. There's plenty of places to take good pictures. There's that background, there's the neon lights. The food is amazing. The service was amazing. With all that combination, it's just a good place to go. The only con I have is, yeah, I didn't get my draft beer. Yeah, it gets crowded. There's a lot of people here, but at the same time, well worth it. 9.5 out of 10. For sure would recommend it. Anybody who even remotely likes Mexican food, I'm sure you'll find something on there that you like. Plus, if you don't like it that much, at least you went to a cool place, right? Does that count for anything? It should. Last place we went to was called Louvino. I believe it's mainly a wine bar restaurant. It does have brunch, which I guess most people don't know about, and dinner cocktails is kind of their main thing. But I'm mainly going to talk about the brunch here. It has a very nice setup inside with booths. It's got that urban kind of feel that most people like. More modern type of restaurant, especially at nighttime. I guess it's more lit up. During the day, it's still got that cool urban feel with kind of the dark tones. We sat outside, which had like a back patio with some live music, was kind of on the low key end. It wasn't like that super loud music that's gonna annoy you. We got to sit out, umbrellas are covering you. So there's quite a few people sitting out there for brunch just because they were just trying to enjoy that last few days of summer, people. Last few days. It was just a good place. It wasn't too windy, wasn't too sunny with the umbrellas. We got a plate of biscuits here and they were amazing. Way better than, I would say, Hardee's, because I like Hardee's biscuits. People can get mad about that and be like, you don't know a real biscuit. Even Pillsbury biscuits are good, but these are better than the Pillsbury ones. We also got the loaded baked potato tots. And let me tell you, these things are amazing. I can just feel them and taste them right now, and it just brings me so much joy. And you know what happened? They accidentally made 2 orders, so we got 2 orders of that with the biscuits, so I was already full by the time we actually had brunch. But highly would recommend the biscuits and the tots. They were great. Carb overload with some ranch dressing. It's a good ass day. Now, I did end up getting the shrimp and grits, was about $22. I will tell you, I wasn't as happy about this plate of food, not because I wasn't expecting it, because it was in the details, but it had fried shrimp instead of just like regular shrimp. And granted, if you had shrimp and grits, most shrimp and grits have kind of the grilled shrimp, blackened shrimp put on the grits. And that's kind of how shrimp and grits is supposed to be. Granted, I don't know how I felt about the fried. It just the fried shrimp didn't really have any flavor to it, and it was kind of sad on that end, but I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10 on that end, just to be honest. My wife got the biscuits and gravy, which was very good because if you have a good biscuit, making bad gravy pretty hard, but not impossible. She'd probably give that one a 7 out of 10. It was actually pretty good, probably better than my shrimp and grits, just to be honest. And I probably just should have got biscuits and gravy. That's a Southern staple. Always stick to it. The service was good. Like I said, I'm not gonna complain about the service here. Kind of your typical fare, got everything done. Plus they got us extra plate of tots. Can't complain about that whatsoever. Overall pros of this, it was not as busy. I don't know if people know that this place is Brunch. The biscuits, the tots were amazing. The biscuits and gravy was amazing. The atmosphere itself, you could sit inside. It's got that urban feel. You could sit outside. You can enjoy the weather if you can. There's plenty of seating. There's a little bit of that live music where you're not super annoyed by it. The cons here is I didn't really like the shrimp and grits too much because it was fried. Maybe if it was grilled, a little blackened, it probably tastes a lot better, but that's just my opinion. Everything on here, con-wise, I mean, it's on the pricier side. I mean, I think biscuits and gravy was like $13. My shrimp and grits was $22. Appetizers were pretty much around the $9 mark anyway. So it's gonna be more expensive here. So in conclusion, out of the 4 places that I went, granted, all of them were good in some form or fashion. I think you should actually go to all of these or some of these. They all have kind of their pros and cons, but if I had to rate these on a scale and we'll go from lowest to the highest, I'd probably we'll do North of Bourbon, expensive, would not do it again. Then I would do Louvino, which is really good for brunch. I don't think you would be upset going there whatsoever for brunch or dinner. Then GraleHaus is extremely good for brunch. It's gonna be super crowded, worth it, different experience. Go do that one. And way up here, up to the sky, Guacamole, atmosphere, food. Only complaint, no draft beer. But atmosphere, food, everything beats that out of the water. Go to all these. Tell me what you think about it. If you hate it, tell me about it. If you love it, tell me about it. If I missed something, if you want to know anything, put it down in the comments. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Help me out, people. Help me out so I can go on my next cruise. Because I got to. Help me out, please.